Hello and welcome to Ringo. My guest today has been in radio for almost 40 years and has gotten to interview people like Ringo Starr. His name is Ken Michaels, and he also hosts the podcast Things We Said Today and is a member of Talk More Talk. Today we're going to talk about Ringo the Fourth.
How you doing, Lucas?
Doing pretty good. Yeah, this album is it's not my favorite of Ringo's by a long shot. It's a disco album.
Oh, my goodness. Our entire show could be on what you just said, because I think a lot of people have very erroneously called it a disco album. But you think about it, there's 10 tracks on there. And the first one is Drowning in the Sea of Love, which is a disco song. What
It's
else would you call
R&B
disco?
too.
What's that?
Could be R&B too. I mean, it's like a
Well, it is originally an R&B song. It was a hit for Joe Simon, an R&B artist in the early 70s. But aside from that one track, what would you consider to be disco?
uh, it's really just kind of like a sequel to Rotogravure, I guess.
Well, it's the follow-up album, but I mean, every time I read about this album, people keeps calling it a disco album or disco infused, or words to that effect. But aside from maybe Simple Love Song and the song that was the B-side to the singles,
Just a
there was one
Dream.
B-side called Just a Dream. That's a little disco-y, but
Yeah, but that was
most
also
of
a
the
Rotogravure
album,
outtake.
what's that?
But Just a Dream was also just a song from Rotogravure. It's an outtake from it.
Yeah, but the point is that most of this album is not disco at all. So, people hear this, they read about it, and they just repeat what's been said. I don't call this a disco album in any way. Um, really. I mean, the only one that's definitely what you could call disco is Drowning in the Sea of Love, and that's 10% of the album. So, and I say this as someone who likes disco. There's nothing wrong with recording disco music, especially if it works for the artist. And I do like the version of Drowning in the Sea of Love there. But yeah, it's just in every artist's career, you're going to have what people consider the artist's best work and their worst. Worst doesn't always mean that it's bad. And if you followed some of the things that I've said on my podcast shows, I don't think there's one truly bad solo Beatle album. So they all go from good to great.
Yeah, every album has
And
its ups.
yeah, uh, every album has worthwhile tracks, no matter what. And on this particular album, Ringo the Fourth, I like 9 of the 10 songs. So the only one I don't care for is Out on the Streets.
Oh, that's the one
And
I like.
how come?
I just like how it's just like a bit of a party song. I think that those backing vocals, that's what really makes everybody think it's disco. They hear Drowning in the Sea of Love and they hear those backing vocals and they just characterize it as disco.
When you hear female backing vocals, which Ringo uses a
It
lot,
could
it,
also Vinnie Poncia backing vocals.
yeah. And I love his work with Vinnie Poncia. I
Yeah.
think Vinnie was a great collaborator with
Yeah,
Ringo.
like Crying on Rotogravure. That's an amazing song.
That's one of his best compositions, I think, certainly in the 70s, and one of the best that the two of them wrote together. Yeah. So I wish I knew what happened with the two of them, because Vinny's someone that I've wanted to be in contact with all these years, and I find it really difficult to get any information about him. But he and Ringo wrote a sizable number of songs. I don't know the exact number, probably about 15 or 16 songs.
Yeah, because half
And
this album is Poncia Starkey compositions.
yeah, I mean, the one most significant thing about Ringo the Fourth is that it was the biggest leap Ringo had taken up to that point as a songwriter. Usually his albums would have a couple of songs that he wrote or co-wrote. But 6 of the 10 songs on Ringo the Fourth are co-writes. And I like all but one. So that's not so bad right there. I think it showed a lot of promise, but then you're also talking about a team that wrote Oh My My, which was A very big hit in the US,
Was
went to
Ringo's
number
third
5.
biggest hit.
Yeah, well, um, depends on if you're going by the charts. You've got Photograph in Your 16 hitting number
Number one.
1. You've got the No No song went to number 3
I think, yeah, it's tied with the No No song because they both went to number three.
on the
Your
Billboard
audio,
charts anyway. So,
yeah, your audio cut out for a second. It's back now though.
okay.
So yeah, I mean, this, some of those, some of those Pontius Starkey compositions aren't really, they're pretty good for Ringo.
What does that mean for Ringo?
Well, in my opinion, stuff like Way of the World or, well, there goes my CD copy.
Uh-huh.
Some of his newer stuff that didn't chart at all. That's better than some of those 70s hits, in my opinion. But pretty good for Ringo could pretty much is the same, in my opinion, as the Upper Four Beatles, because I hold Ringo in very high regard because I love his solo catalog.
Good, good. But like I said, every artist catalog, people rate what they think is the best and what they think is the worst or least favorite. There's always got to be one there that's at the bottom.
Yeah,
And usually I tend to think of Rotogravure, Ringo the Fourth, and Bad Boy as all being the lower rung of Ringo's catalog, but they all have a lot of really good songs on them.
yeah,
So that doesn't mean you should dismiss those albums at all. Once he started doing Time Takes Time, he was on a roll.
yeah.
And I think it was the start of a renaissance period because I really think he put the effort into his albums. Sometimes I get the feeling, as great an album as Ringo is, and I think it, I don't argue with people who want to call it his best album because there's so many classics on there. But sometimes, especially in the 70s and in the early 80s, Ringo had this formula where it's every album is 10 songs. 5 songs on side 1, 5 songs on side 2, and this is what I came up with. And sometimes I got the feeling that side 1 was really strong and side 2 had some decent songs, but let's just wrap it up. It didn't feel like consistently strong all the way throughout. But, if you've got an album where you like 9 of the 10 songs, and on Talk More Talk recently, we reviewed the Bad Boy album, and I like 9 out of 10. I mean, I wish every single album I ever listened to, I liked 9 out of 10 songs. I'd be quite happy. So Ringo the Fourth is a very enjoyable album, and I think that every Beatle fan and every Ringo fan should take notice of it because it was the start of him really trying to write songs. And granted, he didn't really pick up on the songwriting until later on with Mark Hudson when
This
Vertical Man
album,
came in. Yeah, because every single album from Vertical Man on, Ringo has co-written almost every song.
yeah,
And and I say that loving Time Takes Time to death. But the Ringo the Fourth you've got to take notice of because of writing 6 songs on one album for the first time ever. Um, I believe that he's you know, I believe Ringo will probably ultimately always be known for his drumming the most and drumming in the Beatles, but I do wish that people would acknowledge his songwriting. Um, there's no way you could ever compare him to John, Paul, and George, but he's put out a lot of very good material as a songwriter. He's a
yeah.
good songwriter. I'm not going to
Especially
call
like
him great.
duets with someone like Gary Burr or Johnny Warman.
Oh yeah, "Don't Go Where the Road Don't Go" is a really good song with Johnny Warman. But that whole period with Mark Hudson and the Roundheads and Gary Burr, like you said, and Steve Dudis and those people, those are really solid compositions on those albums. So I tend to look at Time Takes Time and the Mark Hudson albums as being his best along with Ringo. But, every single Ringo album has some essential stuff. And in the case of Ringo the Fourth, I definitely would place Gave It All Up as being in my top 10 of Ringo songs in his solo career. It's a really sentimental, melancholy song. He doesn't have the greatest vocals on it. It does sound like he's there at a bar lifting up a glass of beer and singing along and looking back at his life. It's one of those songs. But he does it, but the melody is so nice. The words are simple but heartfelt. And it's a song that suits Ringo really well. Um, the songs with Vinnie Poncia are really, the main reason I think you should listen to this album. It's No Secret, I think, is a real gem of the songs that he wrote with Vinnie. I love Simple Love Song. That could have been a single, I felt, although his singles were getting less and less airplay. One
Wings,
of the things, hmm?
Wings, that's a amazing song. And he redid it on 2012, which
Yeah,
I think
which
2012 is a bit of like a precursor to an EP because there's 9 songs on there.
well, I think in many ways this whole thing about the EP, I think it's another way of keeping your name out there, putting out as much material as you normally do. He's still going to have another EP coming out by the end of the year. So when you think about it, he's putting out an album,
Yeah,
but he's getting twice as much attention and getting more publicity for it.
yeah. Twice
And
as many times he goes around the television show circuit.
yeah, I just, I love it. I just wish that he would perform most of his newer material
Yeah,
live
we're
and
gonna miss
and
all
a
that
lot of
the
stuff
name
from the
stuff.
70s on. Hmm?
We're gonna miss all that What's My Name stuff live, and What's My Name is one of his greatest albums.
It's funny how a lot of people, especially on Talk More Talk, feel that way.
I feel like it's
Yeah.
the strongest album since Ringo Rama or Vertical Man. Actually, Ringo Rama is a really strong album. Choose Love too.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I think some of the people on my podcast would be in agreement with you. They really singled out "What's My Name" a lot, but this is not necessarily a criticism of Ringo, but all the post Mark Hudson albums have a similar sound to them. You know, you could mix so many of the songs, they're kind of interchangeable to me. It's just what collection of songs do you like the most?
Yeah,
Production wise, they all kind of sound the same.
the last Ringo album that really stood out was Liverpool 8, and I don't think that stood out for the better, in my opinion.
Hmm. No, it was a step down, I think, from Choose Love.
Yeah,
But
in my opinion, they digitized a lot of the backing vocals. That kind of sounds like it's in a tin can. Some of the Mark Hudson backing vocals due to Dave Stewart's reproduction.
uh-huh. Yeah, I could see what you're saying. But yeah, the whole Ringo catalog fascinates me, and there's so many different opinions that people have about it. But I love when I talk to people that really have listened to it, because on the one hand, I praise the whole Mark Hudson period, but I also feel like it had it had a very similar sound in that Mark really wanted to bring out the Beatle in Ringo, and a lot of the songs are very Beatlesque, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if that is what you consider to be, if that's how you want to think of Ringo, it's something to be proud of, no doubt about it. But at some point, you got to break away from that. You can't just rely on this one sound that carried you a long time ago, as proud as you are of it. And I think that after Mark Hudson, he went in a totally different direction, which I find refreshing at the same time.
Yeah,
So I think that all the different people that Ringo has co-written with have made a big difference in the songs that he's recorded.
I like
How
when
much
he
input? Hmm?
enters like Caribbean music with Van Dyke Parks on stuff like Samba and Bambula.
I,
That's interesting.
I I love samba. That's one of my favorite songs.
Ringo 2012
Uh,
some really stellar songs.
uh-huh. Yeah, they all do. And then Van Dyke Parks, they did Walk With You,
Yeah,
which sort of is Beatley, and of course you got Paul on that. But to work with Dave Stewart and the songs that he wrote with Dave Stewart were very different from everybody else. Going from him to Van Dyke Parks to Richard Marx to Peter Frampton to Todd Rundgren, all these different people. Steve Lukather he's been writing with now.
writes with
They're
Gary
all
Nicholson.
Gary Nicholson. Yep.
He did the Never Without You Part Two, aka Give More Love.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's very much, it does sound like Never Without You. But yeah, I just love the fact that he's writing with different people, and it keeps his music interesting, and I welcome more and more collaborations, whether they're veterans. Joe Walsh, I love the writing with Joe Walsh. Um, the more different people you work with, the more interesting the music can become. But if you're someone who's stuck in that Ringo, mold of being a Beatle, you'd probably prefer the Mark Hudson stuff.
Yeah, well, stuff like I'm happy he doesn't do the everybody donate the song anymore because that just like it doesn't involve much of his personality. Like you can hear interviews from 1998 when he's talking about how Vertical Man's more of a personal album. Time takes time because he wrote all the songs.
Yeah, but the songs on Time Takes Time are so strong.
Oh,
Yeah.
Time Takes Time is an amazing album. That's my number two. It's that and Ringo and Vertical Man and Ringo Armour up there.
Okay. Well, we're in the same boat. We both feel the same way. Um, it's an ironic thing. I think it's when it comes to Ringo and Paul, as much as I love Paul in the 70s, I think he became more of an artist on his own. So, it's impossible to say which decade was his best because he put out the most stuff in the 70s. But in the 80s, Tug of War, Press to Play, and Flowers in the Dirt are three of my favorite albums from him.
Yeah,
So, and then from Press to Play on, I think, almost everything he's done has been great.
yeah. Flaming Pie too. Flaming Pie in 1987. That's my favorite album for him. And Memory Almost Full just happened to have this on my desk. Is one of my
Uh-huh.
favorites too.
Are you familiar with all of Paul's solo stuff?
I've listened to everything except for maybe a little bit of Kiss on the Bottom and Chaos.
Chaos is a great album. I think that's one of his best.
I like the packaging a lot on some albums. So I like how Memory Almost Full comes in the interesting box as the picture and big fold out. I love all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
And the Vertical Man with the fold out, that's amazing.
Yeah. I like packaging, although the music is what
Music's
matters the
what
most to me.
matters.
Yeah. But when it comes to Paul's solo stuff, you like Flaming Pie the most?
Yeah. Some of the 70s stuff, you have stuff like Venus and Mars, which is an amazing album, but it has
Hmm.
stuff like Spirits of Ancient Egypt and the Crossroads theme. They're just kind of unnecessary.
Oh, okay. Well, I love both of them, but
Well,
I've noticed that a lot of
theme
people that
could
I
have
talk
just
to
been a
are,
hidden track.
what's that?
Crossroads theme could have just been a hidden track and not be labeled. It's like spooky
Hey,
weirdness of the Rotogravure.
Crossroads theme, if it was done in the 2000s, probably would have been a hidden track.
Yeah. Well, Nod Your Head isn't. I was kind of surprised when I saw that.
Uh-huh. But you're more into the more recent McCartney then
I don't
than the
like
70s.
I don't like McCartney 3. I don't really like Egypt Station. New has got some amazing highlights, but it's not my favorite. I like that. I like some of his stuff. Like I like Driving the Rain a lot. That's a fun album.
You'd be surprised if you look at comments online how spread out these opinions are.
Well,
I mean,
Driving Rain's also got some of the lowest lows, like Riding into Jaipur, like you see
I
Throwaway.
love I love riding into Jaipur. I love all the different sounds that are on
Could
it.
have switched that out for India or something.
What's wrong with that?
It's a little too long too. It could have just been a single album. Maybe take away, maybe shorten Rinse the Raindrops a little. it's an epic, but I feel like it could be shortened.
Hey, there are some people that love long jams, and McCartney rarely ever does it. So unless you're talking about live, and even then, I don't think his jamming is
He
that
does like
live.
a 1 minute jam on Paperback Writer, and he does like the Foxy Lady jam at the end of Let Me Roll It. Those are like 2 minute
Uh-huh.
things.
Going back to when the band he had at the time, did
Sergeant
Sergeant
Pepper
Pepper.
jam 90s. I like that
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, but that's interesting that you tend to like more of the post '70s
I like
stuff.
Off the Ground a lot, and Flowers too. Flowers is probably my second favorite. Actually, a little while ago, I got the big box set for it, all the Elvis Costello stuff.
Cool stuff. I love the differences in the demos
Yeah,
between just Paul and Elvis and then the band doing it. What's that?
some of those 87 demos were just amazing. And I love all that Return to Pepperland material.
Okay, how do you feel about Press to Play?
I it's some of the stuff is not that good, but I like a lot of the material that comes from that. I like Footprints, I like some of the B-sides too. I like Right Away, that type of stuff.
So what don't you like about it?
And I like Strangle. Some of the songs are just not that good. I don't like However Absurd.
Well, However Absurd is certainly very Beatley to me.
Yeah.
But
I like stuff like McCartney too, where he just goes, and does something interesting. And some of that in Pretty Little Head, that's interesting. I like that.
okay. So you're kind of lukewarm on the album. There are some songs that you do like,
There are some songs I enjoy.
but there are a lot of fans out there that don't like '80s production, who are Beatle fans. So,
One problem with it is the iTunes version doesn't have the free CD bonus tracks from the original issue.
hmm
Those really round out the album.
oh, no doubt about it. I think Tough on a Tightrope is one of the best songs of all the songs I'm pressed to play. So,
I like the
yeah,
Paul McCartney, Eric Stewart stuff. I wish Eric Stewart would have produced the album because maybe it could have benefited from a more interesting sound, like the original versions if you've heard them on bootlegs.
I have heard them. I don't know if they're necessarily better,
Yeah,
but Press to Play will always be a fascinating album to talk about. It's a very polarizing album
maybe
among
I would
Beatle
have liked
fans.
it if he put some of the Return to Pepperland material in there, like Love Mix. That would have really pushed it out.
I love Mix and Return to Pepperland.
Yeah,
I'll
it could,
never understand why he didn't release that. There's a theory that
he
maybe
stayed
because
so far away from it.
what's that?
He stayed so far away from it. It's not even on a new Wujubu CD single from the 90s.
Hmm. I just feel maybe because George Harrison came out with When We Was Fab at that time, he didn't want to
Compete.
release, yeah, or do something to bring back that time, that
I like the way he was doing
1967 time.
the rock and roll material. He was doing I Saw Her Standing There.
Uh-huh.
There's actually it's not released anywhere, but there's a version. I've just heard about it. There's a version they did, the rock and roll band.
You mean from the Russian album?
Yeah, the Russian album has a
Mm.
version, but I don't think they ever released it. That
No, they didn't. They didn't.
would have
But,
been interesting.
you know, there's so many albums, there's so much music to explore, and there's so many different opinions out there. But going back to Ringo the Fourth, I still think that it's an album that every Beatle fan should listen to, just to see the progress in Ringo as a songwriter. I'm not going to say you're going to be blown away by all the songs that he co-wrote, but you'll be surprised how good they really are. I mean, one of the benefits of the Beatles breaking up was that we got so much more music out of the four of
Like
them,
4 times,
especially, yeah, but especially with George and Ringo. And you'll never be able to convince me that the songs that Ringo sang in the Beatles, or especially the ones that he wrote, like "Don't Pass Me By" and "Octopus's Garden,"
and if
are
you
that
pass it
much
up,
more
it's the
better
other one.
than what he put out in his solo career.
Yeah.
So,
So should we get on to the track by track because we've had a bit of a
if
discussion?
you want to, sure.
Yeah. So the first song is the single. You have "Drowning in the Sea of Love." It's
hmm
a cover.
Yep, and I actually think that it works for him. Um, Like we said, it's a Joe Simon song from the early '70s, and I like his vocals on it. I like the arrangement of it. I like the backing female vocals, the strings. It just seemed to work. It's the only song that I truly consider disco on
Chris
on.
Martin does a good job with the arrangement.
I think so. I do. Um, at some point, I know I keep mentioning my podcast, but we're gonna have some kind of conversation as to why Ringo's sales plummeted right after Goodnight Vienna.
He
And
was lost the Beatle touch, in my opinion, because it
what's that?
slowly fades away. Like you have Ringo, which has every Beatle on it. Then you go down to something like Rotogravure, which has all the Beatles on it in spirit, because George isn't on it. Then Ringo the Fourth, there's no Beatle involvement at all.
Well, Ringo's Rotogravure was by no means successful.
Yeah. But A Dose of Rock and Roll was 26. That was a decent hit single. But it was a failure on the album charts. And Hey Baby plummeted to 73.
Hmm. So you think that most people followed Ringo only because they wanted him to work with the
Well,
other
they
Beatles or to
wanted
have a
sound Beatles and Ringo the Fourth, that's a departure from it. It's more him, I guess. More personal.
hmm. Well, that's what I like. I don't want him to just stay in one particular sound. I mean, that's
Stuff like
I,
Runaways, What Goes Around from Time Takes Time. That's not Beatley at all, and they're amazing songs.
right. Yet Weight of the World is.
Yeah, well, that's got a lot of involvement from Brian Wilson and Jellyfish, that's amazing stuff. Their catalog.
Uh-huh. And I Don't Believe You from that album is got the
Yeah,
guys from Jellyfish
the
on there.
original demo of that, I have it on like a bootleg. It's great from Jellyfish.
Hmm.
It's
But
almost a full arrangement.
even then, with the Beatles sound, the album went nowhere.
Yeah, well, that's
So,
also due to Private Music being a very small label.
hmm. Well, you know, this is a conversation when we're talking about Ringo sales plummeting and why. You'll get a lot of different reasons probably. But I certainly hate to think that the main reason people bought his records was to hear him work with the other Beatles. Because when you think about it, he still had success with a song like Oh My, which had no Beatle involvement, a song like the No No Song, which had no Beatles on it.
I feel like they
Um,
got they got Ringo stuff to hear stuff like Octopus's Garden, Yellow Submarine, with a little help from my friends, Don't Pass You By, those Beatles songs.
uh-huh. That's what the people want to hear, you think?
Well, yeah, that's why stuff like the Ringo album was such a success, because it was all stuff you could have heard the Beatles doing if they had stayed together.
No, I don't know about that. I
Well,
don't know if I would have heard Devil Woman with the Beatles. I don't know if I
that's why it wasn't a single.
Oh My, you think would have been a Beatles single?
Well, if the Beatles had stayed around into that kind of 70s dance period, or I could have been a single.
I don't know. I don't know if I could have heard the Beatles backing up Oh My. It's possible, but then what you're saying is that the public just wanted to cling on to Ringo in that one image.
Well, also there's Country Ringo, Beaucoups of Blues. That album went nowhere, and it's got some highlights. It just kind of seems monotonous in some places, but I love stuff like Nashville Jam and 15 Draw.
Oh, $15 draw. I treasure that one.
Yeah, I like
But
Nashville Freakout too. It's an acetate of Nashville Jam, and I just like the name.
uh-huh. So in a way, what you're saying is that the public just wanted more collaborations with the other Beatles from Ringo. Otherwise, they couldn't really take him seriously.
Well, I don't think they would have bought something like Angel in Disguise.
Well, the only reason why there's any interest in that is because
It's a
Paul
Paul
wrote it with Ringo.
Ringo. All right.
Yeah. Well, that's really sad. That's more a reflection to me of the fans than of Ringo.
Yeah, there's some stuff that's Ringo Beatle involved. You have King of Broken Hearts, that's top 10 Ringo in my opinion. And that's got probably George Harrison's. It might be his last slide guitar solo. I don't know if Marwell Blues came after that.
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, because if
brain
Vertical
wash
Man is
recording
19,
information is scarce.
what's that?
The brainwashed recording information is extremely scarce.
Hmm. Um, yeah, I think Marwa Blues is after that.
Yeah, definitely. He didn't play guitar on stuff like Horse to the Water though, which
He
was
didn't.
20 days before he died.
He was apparently too weak to play. Although it sounds like it could have been him.
Yeah, that's Danny, I think.
I don't think so. We'll have to look that up if we can.
Okay, I'm gonna look at that up.
That's pretty good if it is Danny. I don't think
Yeah,
it is.
Danny's also
Prop.
on stuff like Maxine from the Traveling Wilburys and I Live for You.
Hmm.
I'm not seeing it. Just the Wikipedia page for Horse of the Water is is probably the smallest Wikipedia page of all time.
Yeah. Well, Danny probably just accompanied what George played.
Yeah,
On "I Live for You," that's well, you
you've got
had Pete
Dave
Drake on that, right?
and you've got
Wasn't that Pete Drake on there?
Pete Drake and George are the only people from the original
Yeah.
recording, but Pete Drake's
Hmm.
just on pedal steel guitar.
Right.
So I
But I
think
don't think Danny does any slide on that.
it's not slide. I think it might just be just straight acoustic,
Hmm.
kind of like Maxine from Traveling Wilburys.
Right. Yeah.
It's a lot of Traveling Wilburys stuff on bootleg. I didn't know that. I always thought there was like 5 songs and just a couple remixes, but there's demos of all the Traveling Wilburys material. They could really revise that Linen Cough box that came out a couple years ago. I'd like to see that have another run.
We'll see. Everything is kind of slow going with the Harrisons.
The vinyl Traveling Wilburys set is back in print, which is very nice. I've wanted to get the Traveling Wilburys stuff on either CD or vinyl for a while, but I think I might just get the small digipack of the free albums. Well, the two
Okay. I'm
albums.
happy. I'm happy with my two originals and then the box set that came out, but on CD.
Yeah. The box set has all the fun like postcards and stuff. I like that type of stuff in
Hmm.
box sets.
Yeah. But I wasn't aware that there's that much demo material.
Well, there's like a couple demos, but there's a lot of studio outtakes and remixes. There's like 7 versions of Runaway.
Didn't know there was that much.
There's
I
like
just know it was
all of
released
them have like
also.
12-second difference. It's like fades early or has a different fade or has different solo or extra
Hmm.
vocals or more horns.
Okay. Have to look into that.
So the second song is Tango All Night. It's a bit of it's a tango. It's nice.
Oh, I like it too. It's a danceable song, and I love the brass in it, and I think Ringo sings it really well.
Kind of like
Um,
reminds me of Lost Precepts from Rotogravure, even though that's a different genre.
yeah, I think that that's a style that fits Ringo pretty well. Again, very catchy stuff. If it just so happens that this was at a time when he was putting less effort into the albums, there's still songs that work very well for him. And it's often said his vocals are probably the worst around this time. I'm so used to hearing them, and I think however he sang, if he sounded a little bit drunk, like on a song like Gave It All Up, it worked for the song.
Yeah,
So,
and he's probably drunk during the out in the streets when it comes into the big climax, and he's just like saying like stuff about sticking a knife up somebody's nose,
probably,
and
probably.
maybe
I don't want to say for
stop
sure,
all
but
the
yeah.
roses. But I think that might have just been some honest goofing around in the studio of Harry Nilsson.
Harry Nilsson's not on that, is he?
Stop Smell the Roses?
No, I thought you meant out on the streets.
No, no. He's on Stop Smell the Roses Child Track.
Yeah. Oh,
Nilsson,
yeah.
Ringo co-write.
Right. No, there's one where, again, Ringo does a lot of ad-libbing towards the end.
Yeah.
And I think it's
His ad
funny
libs
and
fun. Like in Turnaround from Choose Love, there's a little bit of like I forget what it's called. Might just be alley oop. There's a little bit of that at the end.
it is alley-oop. Yeah.
That's
There's a man in the funny papers we all know. And that's another thing with the Mark Hudson albums. Every now and then, Ringo will do some little ad lib at the end of the song. It'll go straight into the next song,
Got a
and I
little
like
bit
that
at the
stuff.
beginning of Tripping on My Own Tears. That's
Uh-huh.
nice.
Yeah. He might even do some of that on the Christmas album, I think.
I haven't really. That's one album I haven't listened to. I'm gonna wait to get that on vinyl. It's the only Mark Hudson album on vinyl. I'd like a
Okay.
half speed master, 2 LP of Vertical Man, and side B would be the bonus tracks. That's what I'd like.
Hmm. Well, I've heard that there's some bonus material that hasn't been released from Rotogravure and Ringo the Fourth.
Oh yeah. For a second I thought that was Vertical Man. But Rotogravure, you've got stuff like The Party, you've got Free Ships in the Harbor, you got all these tracks, you got I Can Hear You Calling, Ringo the Fourth. I've gotten a lot of Discord messages, like everybody's telling me about all these 2 Ringo the Fourth tracks. What's sad is
Hmm.
there's nothing for Old Wave because those masters were destroyed by, I think it's like it's some king who moved in Tittenhurst Park, destroyed like some Lennon paintings and some Startling Studios acetate.
Where'd you hear that?
The Tittenhurst Park Wikipedia page.
Oh, okay.
And that's also why there was no bonus tracks on that 93 issue on CD, which is very
Hmm.
hard to find now.
No, you had the alternate version of As Far as We Can Go.
That was from the Sweet Silence studio sessions from '78.
Hmm. Right.
I'm happy that album was discarded.
You're happy that what?
The Sweet Silence studio sessions, that album was discarded.
Is that the Chips Moman, you mean?
No, '78, right after Bad Boy came out, he went to Denmark, did 4 songs. You have She's So in Love, One Way Love Affair, As Far as We Can Go, and On the Rebound.
Okay.
And we don't have
Well,
On the Rebound.
okay. But we have those songs on Stop and Smell the Roses.
Uh,
She One Way Love Affair, wasn't that on there?
a One Way Love Affair, I don't think so. Stop Slow the Rose, you have the Can't Fight Lightning material and Hangman promos.
Okay. Maybe I should go pick up my CD and look because I
Stop Slow the
have the
Rose,
song in my head.
got one coming in from the UK. It's going to take 4 weeks because I actually got it at a decent price.
How are you getting it?
eBay.
No, I'm saying, is it part of it? What album is it part of then?
Uh, it's just I have a bootleg right here. Ringo Starr After the Beatles Anthology. It's got like all
Okay.
these outtakes, and I've also got it's on YouTube. All this stuff. And it's on
Yeah,
bootleg Bad Boy Deluxe Edition albums.
there is a bootleg that I have. It's on my wall back there that has One Way Love Affair on it. That's probably, how I know it. Sometimes, if you get used to the bootlegs a little bit too much, you confuse it with the release versions. So,
Yeah, I'm not really excited to scalp the mouse soon. I feel like that's not it's gonna be a bit of a drag because I've heard the 2 tracks that are on here and it's all on
uh,
YouTube. It just doesn't seem that good.
well,
Only on
for the
sale for one night too, which is very hard, which means it's impossible to get an LP.
considering that this was, a children's story, the songs are, written in that kind of a format. So it would be like, Ringo singing songs for an animated film or something. So it works on
It's
that level.
like that on here actually. There's a lot of Ringos. There's a lot of just odds and ends on this. You've got like It's Love and a canceled bonus track for the Ringo Rama Deluxe Edition.
What song is that?
The
Oh, you mean It's Love?
It's Love is not for Ringo Rama, but you have Never Without You. The live version was at the bottom line. That was going to be a bonus track on that deluxe edition, but they canned it.
Again?
What?
What song is that again?
Never Without You. The live
Oh, I didn't. They
bottom
were going to put
line.
that on there.
They were well. I've seen a photo of the promotional press track listing. It says Never Without You live at the bottom line, and this is Never
Okay.
Without You live at the bottom line.
All right.
It's an actual good recording from the bottom line too. They could have. I think they should have done more shows at the bottom line, maybe for Choose Love or something. They
I
also have
wish Ringo would have done more shows with the Roundheads. as
Yeah,
much as I love the all-star band
he could
lineups.
have done a 10-day tour
Hmm.
because if he did a full-on tour, like a 2-hour show, and he only has 7 Beatles songs he can really do, and 10 solo hits, he'd have to go into the solo catalog and do stuff that's interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, from what I understand, he loved doing the Bottom Line show. And
Yeah,
I did see him at Irving Plaza with the Roundheads.
yeah, that was before the soundstage show.
Hmm.
The rare stuff from the soundstage show was actually the Mark Hudson and Gary Burr stuff that they performed. Well,
I don't
they did a
like
couple
what?
Beatles tracks. They did like "You Can't Do That" and stuff like that, and "Long Tall
Okay.
Sally." But that stuff was not recorded because they only recorded like the Ringo stuff, and I think the Colin Hayes song.
Okay. But definitely, I wish that the whole format of a Roundhead show would have worked very well. I don't think Ringo had the confidence to go out and do shows that are just him for
Yeah,
the most part.
but right when he was
And
picking up the confidence, this is just a hearsay. But Mark Hudson left to do the movie show, and that all fell apart.
he left to do
One
it.
making him a music star or
Yeah,
whatever.
that was the TV show
Yeah,
in the UK. Um, that's what I've heard as far as why the two of
and
them
there's
broke
Mark
up.
Hudson's version of the story, which is about Ringo wanting synthesizers, which is I think that's untrue.
And also, Mark was supposed to be in the All-Star band.
Yeah, well, I feel like it would have been fun. He could have been a good MC instead of Mark Rivera. Because he has 2 hits he could have done. He could have done Living on the Edge too, because he does that at like every little performance he does.
Uh-huh. That's true. No, even if you had Mark Hudson there, probably I think he was supposed to be the bass player. Yes, he was supposed to
He
be the
could have
bass player.
done
You
So
you
You Are
could
a
have,
Star, Rendezvous, and Living on the Edge. That would have been a good free song
you
set.
could have done that. Sometimes the All-Stars do only 2 songs.
Yeah, I like when they did the solos though. And there's actually a fun moment at the last show, the '97 tour. Ringo
Uh-huh.
actually every All Star do their solos for an extra long show. I thought that was nice.
Huh. Okay. No, that was always a highlight for me whenever I saw Ringo live was the solo numbers in the
Yeah.
middle. And
There were a lot of interesting
if you
All
went
Stars.
to more than one show, usually those solo numbers would
They'd
vary. It
switch
wouldn't
out
be
the
the same.
solos.
Hmm?
They'd switch out the solos.
Yeah,
I don't know if they do solos these days.
they don't. He cut that out years ago. And it's sad. I think it
There's
made
the
the
section where he gets off the stage though for a couple of numbers.
right.
That's
But
the
usually
call out
there's
the
this,
Frankenstein portion.
yeah, yeah. Usually there's one song, or what was it? It was Black Magic Woman in
Yeah,
recent
Greg
years
Raleigh
where
does
he
something
leaves.
on that.
Yeah. So at least Ringo can get like a 10-minute break or something and then come back.
And do his jumping jacks and stuff.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But my wife went to see that Bottom Line show, and she's always told me that Ringo was surprised that, the audience received him that well, and they knew this was at the time of Vertical Man,
That was
that
the
they
one 18
knew that,
hour show at the bottom line, did like half the songs on Vertical Man.
yeah, and there were people in
Practice
the audience that
stuff.
knew the songs already, and he was stunned. And he was like, a kid in a candy store. He couldn't believe how the audience loved hearing this stuff and wanted him to do more of this stuff instead of thinking, well, I got to stick to the Beatles songs and my hits from the 70s. So you're kind of hoping after a reaction like that maybe he would do more concerts like that. But it's so much safer to do an all-star band tour with other people that have bona fide hits, and you're in this comfort zone with all these other stars. And I still wish that if he'd have toured with the Roundheads, that would have been a killer tour.
Yeah, I think also, Mark Hudson did the Harry Nilsson album a couple years ago.
Right?
The replications of the Papa's got a brand new robe stuff. Love that album. I feel like if Mark and Ringo hadn't soured their relationship, Ringo could have actually been on that album.
It's possible.
Because Ringo and Harry
I
were,
interviewed Mark. I interviewed Mark
yeah, around that
around that
time.
time.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
saw that video. Mark Hudson's always been like a hard. I've been trying to get him on the show, but it's always hard, you know, 'cause he's got stuff to do. He's got to do like his tours. And he's producing. He produced the Joey Mullen down the last year.
Yep. Yeah, that's why I thought
Well,
when I interviewed him, it would be a great excuse for him to talk about the Joey Molland album, the Harry Nilsson album, and mix that with Ringo.
yeah,
So that was my first on my YouTube channel, the first video that I posted, my first interview.
I think the first one was Joey Mullen, right? And then Mark Hudson was like a couple ones later.
Oh yeah, right. Hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. What did I say? Yeah, Joey Molland was first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the third song we've got Wings. He did
It's gonna
this
take us
live.
3 hours till we get through all 10 songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, it'll be 10 o'clock. I'll be, you know, half asleep, and we'll be like, oh yeah, we're talking about out in the streets. Okay.
Uh,
So Wings.
Wings.
He did this
Wings is a
live.
really, it's a solid song all
Stark,
the way
yeah,
through.
Starkey Poncia
Yep.
composition. Great song. I like the redo
Uh,
for Ringo 2012. He did it live. That was cool.
hmm I
Sometimes
kind of like the
he
original
redos
more.
songs to do them live.
What's that?
Sometimes I think he just redos songs to do them live
Uh-huh.
because, like, if he pulls out something like, I like how he does Anthem though in his concerts because that's a bit of a
Hmm.
deep cut now. So it's kind of
Hey, Ringo hasn't had a major hit in so long that anything from his albums, even if they're the singles, they're deep
I
cuts.
guess Grow Old With Me wouldn't have been because that got a little bit of attention for it being a basic Beatles reunion track with the little bit of
Hmm.
Here Comes the Sun in there.
Well, it'd be nice if he would do that one live.
Yeah,
It's endless what I'd want Ringo to do.
I want him to do a whole bunch of that What's My Name material. I want him to do some stuff from Zoom In, but we're not going to get most of that stuff. We might get one song from the current EP, and maybe he'll pull out Anthem or something.
Well, we'll see.
He was
Maybe we
doing
should do a show
Road-
together of songs we want Ringo to do live.
yeah, he was doing Don't Go Where the Road Don't Go in 2001. I was surprised when I heard that.
Hmm.
'Cause that's
When he
9 years. I guess he can do whatever. He can do like one new song or something. And since he wasn't promoting Vertical Man at the time, he just left Mercury. He decided to pull that one out.
hmm Well, going back to Wings, I like the original. I like it a little bit slower, and it's bluesier, I think, that particular version. And I
I
like the
like
guitar.
I like it a little more than the remake though, because it does the remake has a bit more auto tune on it.
Most of the time when it comes to auto tune, I can hear it. I don't hear it that much in Ringo
I
stuff,
mean,
even though I know that he
one
uses
time
it.
when he does auto tune, Money, I love that song.
Not crazy about that version. So you like auto tune on that?
I like Money a lot from What's My Name. It's just a fun song.
Well, I love the song, but you like that approach with the auto
Yeah, I
tune.
like that. I like how he modernizes it with the rap in it. It's fun.
Hmm. Okay. That's one of the few Ringo tracks I don't care for. That and Where Did Our Love Go?
Oh,
But
you like that?
Wings
Like
is
the big song and Bad Boy. I can deal with Where I Love Go.
okay. I mean, it's not absolutely horrible, but
Well, I
I
can't
just
deal
think
with
it's,
stuff like You Got a Nice Way, and I don't really like In a Heartbeat that much.
oh my God,
But
that stuns
I
me.
like In a Heartbeat a lot, because a little bit, because you do have Jellyfish and Brian Wilson on the backing vocals, and I got to interview Roger Manning a few months ago.
How did that go?
It went extremely well because he was talking about all the stuff he did with Ringo and all the demoing. Very fun.
In a Heartbeat, it's to me the song always comes first, and it is a great song, and it certainly has a
Diane Warren,
'60s Beach
great.
Boys feel to it. Yep, Diane Warren. That's a song that I wish Ringo had released as a single, even though at that time, radio stations still wouldn't play him.
But I think
But
Without Understanding is the better of the Ringo Brian Wilson collaborations. That song is insane.
I love the Indian feel of it.
The most far out thing Ringo's done in a while.
Far Out?
It's just different.
Uh,
It's not like you got I Was Walking and La Di Da and stuff, and you got Without Understanding, which is it's got an opera singer on it. It's got Indian tabla breakdown, and it's got Mark Hudson all over it. It's great.
I think when it comes to Far Out, I would probably say Instant Amnesia
Oh,
deserves
Instant
to be in there.
Amnesia is amazing. The jam
Free
flow,
Drinks is amazing.
yeah, I like what he does with the vocal in that.
Mm.
Just
But that's a
one song.
song. Free Drinks is a song where if you just played it on the radio, you didn't tell anybody who it was,
It was
nobody would know
about
it's Ringo.
Ringo. Yeah, I've heard
Um,
that before.
it
Uh,
has a very 80s feel to it.
thing like
And
the Mark Hudson stuff though, there's a lot of bonus material. You can
mhm,
get you've got like one or two bonus songs for Ringo the Fourth and the Scouts the Mounts. Well, Mark Hudson, like in the documentaries especially, there's like 20-second demos of the songs, and there's like
mm.
alternate mixes where the vocals are slightly more echoey, or like you can hear the backing vocals more, just slight things.
I hope that it's probably never going to happen that we'll
Yeah,
get like box sets or
one
archival
box set with
releases with.
Vertical Man on with the demo of Every Day. I want all that stuff. Want the full session from Living in the Material World where George is doing the I'll Be Fine Anywhere guitar. So you can hear like a minute of that in Living in the Material World, the movie.
Right. Yeah, I just don't think the demand is there, but I'd love to see every Ringo
Maybe we'll get
album get
something
a
cool.
bonus CD with alternate takes or demos.
I
But
just think
we don't know exactly how much exists of so many of those albums.
I don't think we'll get anything Gold Wave, but that's already known because the I am gonna have to see him. Like his name was like Tibetan Zuban Han. That is a butchering, but he destroyed the old wave masters and never forgiven him.
Okay. But I definitely, we'll be lucky if we just get the Ringo album as a
Yeah,
box set.
I'd like the ring. Well, we already have enough to do it. There's rough mixes and alternate takes of that album floating around everywhere.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of that
We could
stuff,
do
and
a deluxe
I,
edition.
I don't. What I have heard isn't that interesting. It's
Yeah,
not too
just
far
like
removed from the release version, so
the only interesting stuff, you have your John Lennon version of "I'm the
I'm the
Greatest."
greatest.
You got your
Yeah,
extended 6 o'clock, your Devil Woman, You and Me, Babe medley. You got all that type of stuff.
yeah, but I wish I knew how much did exist beyond what there is. I mean, I do rely a lot on Eight Arms to Hold You, the book, which is an incredible resource for all the Beatles solo stuff. But we don't know everything of what does exist, and it's kind of wrong to assume that there are demos for everything. I wish there were. I'd like to think in McCartney's case that there are demos for every song, but we've gotten some. I have a feeling there's quite a lot that we'll never get to hear. I don't know.
There's a lot of fun Paul McCartney outtakes. You've got stuff like going real deep. You've got his late '80s, '90s stuff, which is like 2 seconds of like a demo where he's noodling on a synthesizer. That's fun stuff. You've got like Fishy Mares Underwater, all that fun stuff.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Um, it's amazing. I just think the whole process of what's been going on with the archival box sets is gradually changing. And some of McCartney's box sets I've been thrilled with, like Red Rose Speedway and Flowers in the Dirt and
Playing
Flaming
Pie.
Pie. And what?
I said Playing Pie.
Yeah.
That's so much fun stuff on it. Like the demo of Souvenir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's incredible what there can be if it's done right. And when you look back at some of the earlier archival box sets, there's so little that was given, like on Wings at the Speed of Sound, for
It's
example.
7 songs and one of them's 30 seconds.
It's hard for me to believe that there aren't alternate takes of every single song
But
that could have
the
been
stuff
put
on
on
Wings
there.
with Speed of Sound archive, you've got the She's My Baby demo, all that one. You got all that great stuff,
Uh-huh.
but there's not much of it. But I feel like if Ringo just did even just two CD versions with a nice 20-page booklet with a little essay, I feel like that's all
That's,
he needs.
I'd be very happy with that. But with McCartney, I think he's realizing that demos are very valuable and early takes, and he's doing more and more of that.
On the Flaming Pie album, you've got a whole disc of demos. Flowers and Dirt, there's two discs of demos. That could have
I
been
know.
put into one disc, in my opinion.
Well, there's
Yeah.
demos and there's early takes, and some of them you can't tell the difference.
I want to hear stuff like the Figure of Eight, which is like before they made it all fast, like the rock and roll version.
Hmm.
'Cause
It's
I love
endless what you can do, but you know, it's so easy to put yourself in the position of, this is what should be done and not think about how the artist feels because I would understand anybody being very sensitive to their work
yeah.
and seeing that certain things that they feel is below par shouldn't go out. For so many years, the whole idea of having anything Beatles, anything, we didn't get until the Beatles anthology, really, anything from the archives
Yeah, the closest thing you had to it,
or
yeah.
the BBC stuff, actually. But
You'd sessions, the bootleg, and you had stuff like rarities, which is just like, oh, this version of I Am the Walrus, Rarities US, has like five
big deal.
longer fade.
Yeah. But I'm talking about unreleased songs, different takes of songs, different mixes of songs, and nothing really happened until the anthology.
Yeah,
And
I guess session.
now
That's a bootleg.
now everybody's expecting for every single album for there to be
Like
outtakes.
with Abbey Road and stuff like that, you've got like too many outtakes. It's like you just get there's just a lot in there. But with stuff like the White Album set, that's you have the disc of demos. You've got all those studio outtakes. They were working on so many jams during that period.
Yeah, I think the White Album was very satisfying as an archival box set. But, you know, there are going to be a lot of Beatle fans out there that no matter what feel that everything they ever committed to tape should come out. And they'll never be happy no matter how much gets put out on all their releases. And I don't envy, Yoko and Sean and Olivia and Danny, and especially when it comes to the solo music too, because there's always going to be fans out there that'll complain. So, but I just feel, especially when you see what can be done and what has been done with the Lennon box sets, if you use that approach to every McCartney album, it could be so much more fascinating.
Uh, I,
And for the Harrison and to a lesser degree Ringo, but I still want more unreleased stuff from Ringo's albums. So
think the Lennon stuff it's decently priced, but I don't know. Like there's like two discs of outtakes on each. There's like slightly different mixes. It's just a lot of the same stuff.
hmm. See, you look at it that way, and I can look at it that way, but there are fans that want all of it,
What if there was
even with the
one
slightest
night
difference.
and that's a thing we didn't get up, didn't fit enough into a disc?
I can't hear what you said.
What if there was unreleased stuff from that era which just didn't fit into a disc format? We never got it.
Well, we don't know what else there is. Actually, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of what has been bootlegged. We don't know what's going to happen with any of this stuff, how it's going to fit on the archival box sets to come, if there'll be anything else that the Lennons will put out. Yoko has been, as far as I'm concerned, extremely generous,
Yeah, Yoko did
especially through the Lost Lennon Tapes radio
Technology,
series.
Lost Line Tapes, acoustic, all that stuff. That was all Yoko, just trying to
Yeah.
extend John's legacy. And Milk and Honey too. Men Love
hmm
Avenue.
If she was willing for all that stuff to be heard in the radio series, I don't think there's going to be that big a problem with most of what's unreleased from John coming out.
Yeah.
But it
Oh,
has to be done gradually, you know.
yeah. I think George
Over.
really that's a start with the All Things Was Past set.
Well, he's about to. I
Yeah.
just hope that all of his albums, you've heard that there was a press release right before COVID hit, and both Olivia and Danny were talking about plans that went through
Yeah.
1974. Yeah, the tour.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see it go, even beyond that. There's no mention of Extra Texture there, but all the Dark Horse albums, I'd like to see every single
I'd
one
like
of
to
them be
see the
given a
Electric
great treat.
for Cloud 9 because I really enjoy that album.
I
Maybe
enjoy all of his albums.
I know it's like 30 tracks of Brainwash that never came out, but maybe George was a little strict with the like because he always had there's stories in the notes he wrote for Danny and stuff.
hmm It's interesting. I don't know if you saw the quote from Danny that there was a lot of, what was it, 110 tracks altogether, he said, that could come out. And yet at the same time, he didn't want to put out, like scrape the bottom of the barrel. So I have a feeling more stuff will come out, but they're going to be very selective as to what they feel is worthy of release.
Yeah. Well, Ringo's already put out free deluxe editions, but they're in depth in various degrees of the past.
Mm,
You've got the Stop Until the Roses Ultimate Edition, Old Wave, and Ringo Rama.
right.
Those
Yeah,
are
but
all pretty good deluxe editions, especially Stop Until the Roses.
yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised with the bonus tracks on that album in particular. But I'd like to see, as you said, every album released with a bonus CD, a full CD of,
Even just 10
alternate
tracks.
takes. Hmm?
Even just 10 tracks, because stuff like 10 Takes Time, you've only got like 3 or 4.
Right.
One of them I just found, which is a rough mix of Way of the World.
Boy, you're really into all this bootleg stuff.
Well, you dig into Ringo's catalog, and
Uh-huh.
once it's done, you have some albums you really like and you want to hear more, and then you go to like stuff like Vertical Man bonus music and the Ringo Round Deluxe Edition, you want more. Then you're
hmm
looking at promo mono 45 of Ooh Wee that has a slightly shorter fade.
I don't go to that extreme when I follow this kind of music, but I do like unreleased songs, obviously. If certain songs are significantly longer, that matters to
Uh,
me.
40 minute
Different mixes.
we'll never get.
What's that?
You've got the 20 minute, the 40 minute. I don't even remember how long it is. The Helter Skelter will never get. It's like 28 minutes.
It's a lot like the one that was released on the White Album.
You got like a 10 minute.
The box, I mean the box set White Album.
Yeah.
Much slower version.
Here.
So you still want to hear it at
I
that
find
speed, kind of like that for 20
hear it.
minutes?
I'd like to hear everything. Maybe not the take where Ringo sneezes, but I can hear everything.
See, this is what I'm talking about. There are fans out there that want everything to come out.
I would not
If
want an 80 CD deluxe edition of the Ringo album with 75 rough mixes. I feel like if you have a good selection, if you have one rough mix for every song that's slightly different, it's just the differences. This stuff is indistinguishable. I don't need it.
I agree. But there are fans out there that want to hear everything,
So like,
and they're interested, and they'll never be bored with anything. I can listen to everything the Beatles ever did in the studio once. How much of it I'll listen to in repetition is another story. But that's just how I am. But there are some people who feel because they are the Beatles, the most important group ever, everything should come out. And I understand that point of view. I also understand the point of view of the artist. They might be embarrassed by certain things that come out. So
yeah. Well, there's stuff
so
like the take of was it Andrew Bird can sing. It's all silly. I mean, maybe it
where
was.
they're laughing through it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think they were definitely on something during the Revolver sessions.
hmm
I learned yesterday Paul's not even on She Said, She Said.
That's very debatable.
Well,
That's another conversation that I had with.
he walked out because he wouldn't try LSD.
Have you ever heard any of the interviews that I've done with Jerry Hammock?
No,
If I can find any of his books here.
I've heard a lot of your interviews on your website though. I've heard your Ringo 2015. I've heard the the Mark Hudson one that's like 40 minutes long. That was a very good interview. The one from a few years ago.
Mm. This is one of Jerry's books. He put out a series of books called The Beatles Recording Reference Manual, 5 volumes of which.
Oh, is it like
And
a expanded version of this thing?
actually, it's done in a very different format. It's done in a way where all the songs are presented in the order that they are recorded, but he shows you in a chart how everything was mixed and mixed down. And it's in a way that, the average person can understand it. So I did talk to him about this controversy about She Said, and he seems to think that, the bass and drum were recorded on the same track together. So for Paul to walk out, for them to redo it, they'd have to redo, what's that?
Must have been George John on the bass then, and that is
Well, the rumor is that George did it.
yeah,
And
almost reverse
Jerry,
captain.
Jerry seems to think that the backing track was already laid down with Paul on the bass, and they weren't going to redo it because the bass and the drum were together on the same track. You'd have to redo the drums too. So, and I have heard online the bass isolated on She Said, and it doesn't sound to me like Paul. But yet, according to Jerry, who studies all this stuff, he thinks that they would have left it the way it was. Why create more work?
Yeah.
If they were already satisfied with the way they recorded it at that point. So, yeah, there's a lot of controversies out there in the Beatle world, and some things have been resolved, and some things may never get resolved.
Okay, so we're an hour in, and it's time for track 4.
Okay, let's
Gave
just
it all
go
up.
right through all the rest of the album.
Let's run through it. All right, okay. Gave it all up. It's a ballad. I think it might be is it a Vinnie Poncioco, right?
Yep,
It's a nice
it's
ballad.
one of my favorite songs from him.
Yeah.
Period.
A nice, well, Ringo's got better ballads, but not, well, he's got, stuff like I'm Yours or Easy for Me, better ballads.
He's really good at doing ballads.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, he doesn't do them live. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Let's not get into a conversation on that.
Photograph. That's kind of a ballad, but it's more.
No, that's up tempo.
Yeah, it's up tempo.
The only top 10 hit that Ringo has had in his solo career that he's never done live is Only You.
When is he gonna do it? Well, I mean, Harry Nilsson. I feel like Harry Nilsson would have made an amazing all-star if he didn't have his heart attack, and because they were planning a tour. I've got the Harry Nilsson book, and they were planning a tour for '93, but then he just had a heart attack. He actually guested on the All-Star Band in '92.
Yeah, I know that. But he had a fear of performing live. He didn't really want to perform live. But I could see him doing it for Ringo.
Joe Walsh and Ringo, they never did any old wave stuff, even though Joe Walsh was on the All-Star tours, and that was Ringo's last album at that point. And Joe Walsh had to in my car.
I know. Here's the most ridiculous thing. We keep veering off the subject here. But here's a song called We're on the Road Again.
Oh, Steve Lukather. He's in the band.
Keep repeating what I've been saying on so many shows.
Well, I've heard this episode of Talk More Talk. Steve Lukather is in the band. We're on the road again. There's a tour for this album. He doesn't do it live.
Yep. And it's a great song. And it would work so well live.
Up tempo. Could have been an opener.
Uh-huh.
It just doesn't make any sense. Ringo Starr tribute act, Ringo Starr.
I never heard them.
His performances are a little funny at times. But he did We're on the Road Again live as his opener.
Uh-huh.
And the guitarist who was trying to be Steve Dudas screwed up the note.
You mean Steve Lukather?
No, the guy in Ringo Starr's band, who is like a fake Steve Dudas.
Oh, okay. Where is this band from?
I don't know. Well, he goes all around the world and he gets a different band each time, and they dress up like either an all-star band or Roundheads or whoever.
Okay. But anyway, it's insane. It's insane that he's never done it. We're on the road again.
Yeah,
that's just to finish my point.
He doesn't do what's my name. I'm gonna be unhappy. That's what's my name. He does it. He says it every concert. That's an encore.
Yep. And Colin Hay co-wrote the song or
Alan
wrote the
Hayden's
song, and
in the
he's in the
band.
band.
He's been
Yep.
in the band for 80,000 years.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that, but he's come
79.
back a few times. Um, but I just wanted to prove a point here. Ringo does not do ballads live. He didn't do Only You, and what is the only song he sang in the Beatles, lead vocals, that he's never done live before?
Okay, good night.
There you go.
Because why? I mean, why would he do Good Night live? I guess he's done Honey Don't. He's done every one. He's done what he did. What Goes On in 2006.
Yep. He's done it more recently too.
Yeah, he's done all of them. There's actually a lost video of Ringo and Mark Hudson doing What Goes On. It's lost to the internet, like all those 2000s updates.
Yeah. But for some reason, he probably feels that the ballads won't work well live.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It's Good Night is a Beatles song. People would freak if he did it live, you
Well,
know,
he doesn't do You and Me, Babe live.
and that would be a perfect song to close with.
That is a closer, and you could name
Yep.
You could name the band during the ending fade.
Yep. Ringo should listen to us.
Well, if Ringo was listening to us, I'd be like, do Good News live, do Mr. Double It Up.
I hope he remembers those songs.
All right, gave it all.
But Gave It All Up is a tremendous track, and it's a song that melodically is great. The words are very simple, but it's kind of like there are certain songs. Um, this is going back a bit. I don't even know if you know it. Frank Sinatra did a song called It Was a Very Good Year, looking back on his life, memories when he was a certain age. And I kind of feel like this is one of those songs, looking back on all the things that he did, mistakes that he made. Um, and it's a very sentimental song that he does extremely well. And it's the kind of song that I could just, you know, hear someone singing in a bar, looking back at his
A lot of
life.
these Ringo songs can be their bar tracks. You got Hey Baby, that type of stuff.
Well, that's yeah, it's a bar song, it's a party song, but
Okay.
Give It All Up is not a party song.
That is not a party song. Well, the next track, let's segue. Out in the Streets, that is a party song. That is like party. It's like partying. And you got stuff. It's like a parade. It's a great song, in my opinion. It's the
It's
highlight.
like I don't know. It's got a great rhythm to it, but it doesn't have much of a melody to it, and I don't think Ringo's vocals are all that good
He's
on
kind of
there.
screaming. But the best part is the vamp to fade, where he's talking about he's saying about sticking a knife up somebody's nose. It's just funny. It's just funny stuff. And the end of it, which is the street noise, the inner groove.
Uh-huh.
And then on the CD, they screwed it up and they added 10 more seconds of extra street noise. That's the best CD bonus track ever. They get that extra 10 seconds.
Well, I'm glad you like it. Maybe I'll give it more of a shot. But it's a song that hasn't done anything for me yet. But, you know, like I said, 9 out of 10 songs, if I like them, it's a worthwhile album.
Yeah.
Can't You Do It Like She Dances is a fun track, very upbeat, bouncy.
Dances.
What's that?
We flip over the record, or we click or we click fast forward on the CD that cost too much money because Atlantic didn't press enough.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of the bounciness of Oh My My.
Yeah, it reminds me of a lot of these 70s Ringo tracks.
And it just sounds like that's a party song where he's having a lot of fun. It's another one where he's kind of ad-libbing at the end. I want to know if she can do it, over and over like that. That's the feeling you get most of the time when you listen to a Ringo album. It's light, it's fun, it's not all that serious most of the time.
This is the worst track on the album, in my opinion. Now, I just went out for like 20 minutes when I was listening to it. It's just like this and Sneaking Sally Through the Alley. They felt like they were a 28-minute epic.
I never felt that way. I like both those songs. That like what?
I like that a lot. It's an Arms of Saint thing.
Can't She Do It Like She Dances is like what, 3.5 minutes?
3.5 minutes. It's pop song length. Out on the Streets is longer.
I know.
Everything on
That
the
goes
song
on
is
too long.
longer. Tango All Night, uh, Gypsies in Flight, and Simple Love Song. Those are the only shorter tracks.
Hmm. Well, I mean, it's light, it's harmless, it's fun, and that's what Can She Do It Like She Dances is for me.
Ringo should
If
have
you,
done As Far As We Can Go live. I just realized that. That's a great song.
that's a gorgeous song and another slow ballad that he would never do live.
There's extra lyrics in the early version. Because the studio version from Old Wave, they cut out some lyrics and they took out that horrible effect.
What effect are you talking about? There's the
Uh,
synthesizers in the middle.
on the effect on the original version, it's like he's got like a effect on his voice, a vocal effect, which just kind of makes it harder to hear. That's it.
I never heard any kind of an effect on his voice on there, but I'll listen more now since you hear it, but it sounded pretty
Golden
natural
Tape
to me.
CD, the one that's about worth its weight in gold. That old CD.
Hmm.
Ringo needs to reissue everything on CD. I'm happy he stopped Full Roses and Old Wave on Spotify though.
I don't even follow Spotify, so.
Well, it's remastered too. They remastered it again. Boardwalk finally started reissuing their stuff.
I mean, I only know from like 1994 when the
The
CDs
right
came
stuff.
out. Yeah.
They redid it just this year. They put it on streaming with new covers. So it's
Oh
like
wow. And
slightly
those are
better
those are
cover.
remastered.
It's a remastered. And it's got like a slightly better cover, and they even put the singles on. So you've got like a
And
digital 45 of In My Car.
okay, so wait a minute. So they're remastered, but are this is just for Spotify?
This is for Spotify, any streaming platform, but they're not on CD or vinyl.
That's crazy.
I'd like a CD, but
Yeah.
you can't get what they want.
Wow.
Stop Still Roses has to command $400 on eBay.
I ain't going for that.
I found mine for 30, and that was insane because Rotogravure was already expensive. Because Atlantic didn't press much of the Ringo stuff.
Hmm. All right. Sneaking
Rotogravure
Sally through the alley. Let's go
sneak
through that.
inside for the eye. You got Alan Toussaint. It's a
Yep.
nice song.
I like it. It's a funky version on there, and
It's like acapella. Never Alan Toussaint. And I
I
think
suppose you could look at it that way.
No, there's no Alan Toussaint on Rotogravure, right?
No, acapella's "Goodnight Vienna,"
Yeah.
but
Well,
there's no Alan Toussaint song on Ringo's Rotogravure.
actually, there's no Harry Nilsson on this album. Actually, that's surprising. He's on Rotogravure. He's on Ringo, Goodnight Vienna.
Hmm.
Nowhere to be seen here, but he comes back with a punch on Stop Full Roses. He's actually even
It's
on
not
the
like you
time.
would expect him all the time, because if
Well,
he's not on this album, he's not on Bad Boy.
Part of Ringo's crew at the time with Vinnie Poncia and Lon Van Eaton, those people. He seemed like he was part of Ringo's crew. And Ringo was playing on Harry's records. He was on Do It on Monday, Sandman, That's the Way It Is.
I just think that artists like to work with different people and not always rely on the same ones over and over again.
Well,
So, and at the same time, I know
Lisa.
Ringo has said that Harry is the best friend he ever had.
Well, Harry probably is the best friend Ringo ever had.
But that doesn't mean that he wants him on his albums every single time.
Yeah. They made a movie together in the 70s that never got released. And they did Son of Dracula too.
Mm-hmm.
They did a lot. And Harry's even on Time Takes Time on Runaways.
Yep.
That's his last performance on a major album. Because I think that was after the Fisher King.
Well, Time Takes Time was 92. Fisher King was
91.
91. Oh.
Yeah.
You're probably right about that.
Then there's all the Papa's Got a Brand New Robe stuff, which goes into 2019. Some of the original demos are slightly better, but I feel like with what Mark Hudson had to work with, all those Andy Cahan demos, he really did it.
I got to learn more about that stuff.
I've
because I just,
researched so much about it. I've made 4 CD bootlegs out of it. Just love all that material. But some of it is god awful. And Mark
hmm,
Hudson really pushed it up and made it sound exceptional.
yeah. Do you know, as long as we're talking about this, and on that Harry Nilsson album,
Yeah.
the last one, you've got him covering
Uh,
Listen, the Snow is Falling.
yeah, that's
And
from
you
4
know
years
that he
ago.
covered a lot of Yoko
He did
stuff.
a whole album, never released.
How many songs?
9.
That's what I thought. But
Yeah.
that's not enough for a full
Very
album.
unmad about Yoko or whatever. That's long. That's the amount of songs was Ringo 2012, and Loneliness is pretty long.
Yeah, because apparently Sean said something recently on Sirius XM that,
Working on the Harry
um,
Yoko stuff.
yeah, for the Yoko songs.
I'd love to see that come back. See if Harry Nilsson's estate. They don't do much Harry Nilsson's estate, but when they do something, it's nice.
Hmm,
Like the personal best. That's a really nice compilation.
yeah. No, Harry's definitely a hero. If you look on my website, I don't know if you ever saw, but I interviewed his son Zach, who just
Oh
recently
yeah,
passed
he just
away,
recently passed a couple months ago.
and Kifo as
Yeah,
well, who
he was
played
on.
bass on the last album.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So let's get on to It's No Secret, track 8.
yeah. But again, Sneakin' Sally Through the Alley, I know from the Robert Palmer version, which got a lot of airplay too. I like both. They're really good. Ringo's version's very funky, I think,
Like,
and more ad-libbing towards
he
the
did a
end.
good job of Fallon too, saying it's
Hmm.
nice stuff.
But if you like the ad-libbing of Ringo, where are you going to go in the alley with that
Like the,
Sally,
the ad libs he does.
Yeah, I love it towards the end of that song. It's No Secret is a real gem.
Yeah.
Very soft, um, nice melody, very gentle, very good vocals from Ringo. It's one of those songs that, a few listens and you're hooked. And it's another good example of how Ringo and Vinnie Poncia work together. Um, again, these are not songs that you're going to hear and say they're going to be the greatest classics, but they are memorable and they're certainly worth, your time listening to them. Um, so many songs that Ringo did in his solo career, if they were on Beatle albums, they'd be accepted so much more, even if they sounded exactly the same as they do on the solo works.
Rack My
And
Brain
I
with the Beatles track would be the next Don't Pass Me By.
could be, but again, you're dealing with a song there that George wrote, so that
That's a
does
cool
help.
thing again. But even Drumming Is My Madness. That'll be
Hmm.
another fun little Ringo song.
Hmm. Well, I say that for so much of the solo music that could have worked on Beatles albums anyway. Um,
A lot of the
but
semi-reunion tracks, of course.
a lot of what?
The semi-reunion tracks, the ones with 2 or more Beatles on it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Now and then.
Oh,
We
no.
still don't know whether or not they worked on Grow Old with Me.
Well,
And
they
it is
did. There's a Grohl with me now, Ringo's version with
right.
on it, which is nice. And there's actually a mix on YouTube. Someone took out Ringo's vocal, they put in John's. I think that's nice.
Eh, sometimes I don't really go for that.
Maybe if they had put in a verse of like some George song, maybe if they put in that would have been fun. They threw it
It's
in.
kind of like what they've done with Only You online, where they mix John's vocal with Ringo's vocal.
Oh, I like the yeah. There's actually, if you listen to Harry Nilsson's Pete Fortell interview, you can hear Pete Fortell play the John Lennon Harry Nilsson Only You to him, and he's like actually amazed by it.
Hmm. Okay. Um, Gypsies in Flight is very much, similar to It's No Secret.
They're very similar songs.
Yeah. Kind of very slow to mid-tempo, nice melody, nice vocal from Ringo. That there's a style that Ringo has in his songwriting. I mean, he said many times that he only knows 3 chords, or he can play A, D, E, or whatever. What Ringo
Place
does with a
one
few
thing.
chords is amazing. They're simple melodies, but they work for him. And in the end, that's what matters the most. It shouldn't matter how simple the song is.
Well, it's not a simple love song.
Simple Love Song is, I think, really very catchy. It's a very strong song to end an album with. And, if it was a single with radio stations playing it in the 70s, it could have been a decent size hit. Certainly would have went top 40. But yeah, sometimes I think when I hear that introduction of Simple Love Song, it reminds me a bit of the beginning of Philadelphia Freedom from Elton John.
So, have we already discussed Simple Love Song, or are we?
What was that?
We already discussed Simple Love Song. Or are we going to move on to it?
Yeah, we have discussed it, but I just think it's a really enjoyable song. That's one of the songs that could have worked as a single to me.
Yeah, I feel like Ringo could have chosen better singles for some of these mid to late 70s albums.
Well, as much as I love Wings as a song, I don't know if I would have picked it as the first single off this album. This is an album where it's tough to pick the single, really. Probably.
Johnny and the Sea of Love just stands out.
Yeah, but Wings came first. Wings came first as a first single.
They both had Just a Dream at the B-side. I think they could have put another B-side on there. Because both singles having the same B-side, it's just kind of, maybe if they had done like a disco remix of Drowning in the Sea of Love for the 12-inch, I think that would have been interesting. It's a missed opportunity because there is a single ad of it for the promo film.
Yeah, but Just a Dream is also a good song.
Yeah,
that could have been put on the album.
Yeah, I discussed that in the Rotogravure episode. You've got two outtakes from this now.
Two outtakes?
Two outtakes that don't exist. You've got Lover Please and Wild Shining Stars, which nobody has. A lot of this Atlantic stuff, they could have made a third album just to these outtakes.
I've seen there are titles that are in the Eight Arms to Hold You book. There's like 5 or 6 titles.
Told you is basically my reference book for all these Ringo outtakes.
Yeah. Lover Please is probably a remake of the Clyde McPhatter hit. I would think, if you know that song. And that's something I could hear Ringo singing.
Yeah. Ringo does good with the covers, that's for sure.
Yeah. There's also the rumor that during Time Takes Time that he recorded Thank You for Being a Friend.
Well, I think that comes straight from Andrew Gold.
Andrew Gold said that?
Andrew Gold's on Time Takes Time. I think he...
Well, I know that, but...
He might have said that. Because Andrew Gold, he's very candid. He was very candid about his time with Ringo.
Yeah. Well, what I'm thinking is maybe Peter Asher would know for a fact.
Well, it's in Eight Arms to Hold You that they recorded that song during the Peter Asher session.
Well, maybe I'll get to talk to Peter about it.
A lot of outtakes from the Peter Asher sessions because Angel in the Skies also comes from that.
Well, I'm just going to have to work at getting a Peter Asher interview. I've interviewed him several times. He's a joy to talk to.
Yeah, Kurt is, he guest starred on the Beatles Sirius XM channel.
Yeah, he has his own radio show.
Yeah.
But, he's a pretty outspoken guy. But he's very careful about what he says. He knows, he can be very, he can tell you a lot of things that you didn't know before because he was an insider. And once in a while you can learn quite a lot from him. Yeah. Have you ever seen him live?
No.
You should. He is the very definition of, someone that should do a storyteller's special.
Songs and stories, everybody does that nowadays.
Well, he's got so much to talk about in his career.
I know. Mark does songs and stories, Mark Hudson. He does his Crosby, Stills and Nash tribute with Gary Burr.
Yep.
And I think that's the person who does it.
Yeah, but Peter is a great interview. He's one of the best I think I've ever interviewed. And I had the chance to interview him with Gordon Waller. right around the time that they reunited.
Yeah,
And I've interviewed Peter since 2 times, maybe 3. He's always a joy. You should check out my interviews with him. That's on my website.
yeah. Your website's got a lot of interviews, a lot of good stuff on it, a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, it's just what I accumulated over the years, and I hope I have time to fit in some of the early interviews from the beginning of my career to put on there. Um,
Yeah, there's 40
you know,
years worth of interviews.
yeah, a lot of people that have passed away too. I did an interview with Carl Perkins,
Oh,
David Spinoza. I interviewed David Spinoza in the 80s, and that was at a time when you knew certain things about Ram, but you didn't know everything about Ram and what went down and
who's your
everything. And
favorite interview to do?
Ringo,
Well, of course, it's Ringo. You talked to him 2 times, right? Once in '92.
3 times altogether. In 1992, in the middle of one of his concerts
Yeah, so he
at
goes off
Waterloo
for a
Village.
5 minute interview break.
What's that?
He goes off, does his little 5 minute interview break.
That's right. So that was all backstage, and Joe Walsh joined us. um, when I was in the podcast show Fab Forum, we all were part
Oh,
of like a
I
a
just started
round
digging
table.
into the Fab Forum stuff.
You got what?
I just started digging into the Fab Forum stuff recently. There's a
Okay.
lot of good stuff there, like the Time Takes Time review, because the Fab Forum's new incarnation never did a Time Takes Time.
Okay. Yeah, I was in that show the first 2 years.
Yeah,
And from there, I moved on and created Things We Said Today with Steve
yeah,
Marinucci,
one
and
of
then that
the
expanded.
best Beatle podcasts ever.
Things We Said Today?
Yeah, I was just listening
Okay.
to the new one, the new episode about archival box sets. That was a good
Yeah.
one.
So that's your favorite Beatle podcast?
No, that's not my favorite, but it's one of the best. My
Okay.
favorite, probably the Fab Forum / Fab Four prequel.
Okay. All right. And so I did an interview there with them with
We
Fab
did the
Forum,
round table.
and then I did one when Postcards from Paradise came out,
Yeah, it's like I
and
saw
that's on my
it.
website.
It's a nice one. It's
Hmm.
on your website.
Yeah. Most of them have been fairly short. He usually just bangs out a lot of interviews all at once, and
Yeah,
they can be 5 to 10 minutes, but you're grateful for whatever time you have with them.
yeah.
So,
If I had
but
5 minutes with Ringo, I'd just be like, "Hey, do you still have the everyday demos?
he'd probably say, "What? What's that?" Um,
King of Broken Hearts demo? Well, I'd like to hear that one. A lot of those. They only did 2 Vertical Man demos. Then they were like, "Why are we making demos? We got to make an album." And they put a sign up in the studio: "We don't make demos."
I never heard all that.
Well, that's just from the Mark Hudson Plastic EP interview that he did.
Okay.
Plastic EP's classic. I want to get him on my. I want to get him on my show. He's just so. He's so like he's a funny guy. He's a good comedian.
He's constantly on YouTube, boy.
Yeah,
He just
and he
finished
got
his
a Hudson
500th
Radio
show.
show, and I talk with Hudson all the time.
Yep. I just interviewed Hudson from my YouTube channel.
Yeah, most of my talks with Hudson Radio are reduced to the photo in Memory Almost Full and how he has a copy of Vertical Man that's a factory mess up.
I'm glad the two of you talk to each other.
Yeah. So that's Ringo the Fourth. Okay. So
Yeah.
you can Ken's on a lot of stuff. He's on Things We Said Today. He does his radio show, Every Little Thing. He's got the Ken Michaels Radio YouTube channel, and he's 1/4, sometimes 5th. Talk More Talk.
Yep. Yeah, and every little thing is there's a page on my website for that show if you ever wanted to hear it. Every little thing, for anyone that doesn't know, is a good old-fashioned radio show like it used to be. It's playing the music, talking about the music, offering information about the music, slipping in an occasional interview, doing a fun thematic set, mixing that all together in an hour, and it's anything that the Beatles have ever touched can be in that hour.
Yeah.
It's Beatle music, solo Beatle music, cover versions, side projects, tribute songs, songs that mention the Beatles in the lyrics. Um, my newest show, which is going to be coming out in a couple of weeks, has got um, what you might even consider an early mashup that took place in 1968, mixing the Mission Impossible theme song with Norwegian Wood. Just cool stuff like that, that a lot of people may not have heard before. And I play hits, I play deep cuts. It's a mixture of all of it. It's the whole kitchen sink thrown into that show. So there's a page that's devoted on my website that lists all the radio stations that carry it and when it gets broadcast. And you have to stream it off their websites
Yeah,
or on TuneIn
yeah.
if
TuneIn
it's on it.
for a lot of
So
some on
yeah.
TuneIn they have like fake Beatles radio, and it's like some of the worst stuff. Some of it's like royalty free covers of Beatles stuff. It's not even the original masters, and when it's an original master, it's a like alternate take. They
Hmm.
think like the real stuff.
I have to check into that.
Yeah,
Get every little thing on there. Get my podcast on there.
yeah. So for Ringo Rama, Lucas, that's Ken Michaels over there. Oh, over there. Yes, Ringo the Fourth.
The
Six.
other direction.
Oh,
Oh, that's right.
wait,
Yeah.
get a point over there. Yeah. So
No.
peace and love. Peace and love.